We're going to talk about the court-appointed attorney in Vermont, Guildhall, Vermont, Essex County, Laura Wilson. Laura Wilson has tried to convince my daughter, Brianna, to plead insanity in a criminal case. Now, what happened was Brianna was being abused. It's all an audio record and shared to YouTube. House for Justice. Look under Kim C. House, Island Pond, Vermont, domestic violence, okay? You're going to hear Brianna being abused by Kevin. They never charged him. He was writing and calling and making all these false complaints and statements against me. And the judge already said that he agreed I didn't do any of that stuff. Kevin out there yelling, saying that I had a gun and all this shit. I don't do all that stuff, okay? And so why is it was only him that heard all that, okay? But it was everybody in the apartment building that heard Brianna being abused. So she's got Brianna convinced that if she pleads insanity to the charges that they charged her criminally, felon charges, impeding with DCF, because impeding would be that she was trying to protect her son. She told them, I was on the phone with her. She called me, and when the cops came through that door and said that they were taking Jacoby, and she said, not unless you take me with you. Well, they don't want to release any of that information, but I'm going to tell you, I'm her witness. She called me, and she's been asking since April 1st for this shit to be taken out, her name to be taken out of that fucking frivolous no-contact order that Kevin put against me in those fucking false charges that they refused to dismiss. So knowing that I had been court-appointed a pretender, which actually happens to be the Senator, Joe Benning, okay, which was a conflict of interest, and I told him to withdraw. So then he made it out to be like it was my fucking fault, that I'm the problem. So then they put this Laura Davis, and I already said, no, she's a conflict of interest because she wouldn't handle the case a couple years ago. Had she done her job a couple years ago, we wouldn't be in this fucking situation now. So she, boom, she wanted off the case. Well, it's a good thing anyways, because she's no fucking good in my opinion. She's never in her office, and she never does her job. Okay? And she's on the Board of Appeals, too, isn't she, for the federal court? Oh, and she works for the Attorney General, who is a conflict of interest, okay? So knowing that they're all a conflict of interest, oh, and yes, Laura Wilson is contracted by the Attorney General, so she's a fucking conflict of interest, trying to convince my daughter to plead insanity, and says to her, oh, no, I told my daughter, if it was me, I wouldn't be pleading insanity. I'd be standing the fuck up for myself because she's not insane. What they did caused her a medical fucking breakdown. And if she doesn't remember something, that's why. And then they put her in a fucking hospital for 60 days and wouldn't allow her to talk to me after it's on record of her being abused and shared. If you look under Kim C. House, Rutland Regional Medical Center, Rutland Police Department back in July, you're going to hear Brianna being abused. And then the phone hung up. You're going to hear me calling the hospital and talking to Rutland Regional Medical Center. You're going to hear me calling the police department and demanding that they check on my daughter. They didn't do any of that. They allowed my daughter to be abused. Everybody seen my daughter. Federal, state, fucking employees, everybody seen my daughter when she got out. She's on record also. On the night that they put her out of the fucking hospital and she had no place to go, and I called AAA while she was on the phone, and Chris Mitchell said he'd take her where she needed to go, but once he found out she had a place to go, he said he wasn't taking her. It's all on audio record. So they're a conflict of interest. Don't you fucking get it? They're trying to destroy my daughter. All because they're the ones, back in 2006 and 2007, groomed and lured my daughter. The teacher and her husband, Border Patrol, and the whole fucking school in town got involved. Okay? That's why they're trying to silence me and my daughter. So, do not plead insanity in a fucking criminal case unless you want to be locked up in a goddamn mental institute, because pleading insanity, a successful insanity defense usually results in many years of mandatory treatment in a mental hospital, not a free ride out of jail. Laura Wilson, why are you wrongfully representing Brianna? Why are you not removing yourself? You're a conflict of interest. I have the proof of it. When defendants plead not guilty by reason of insanity, they are asserting an affirmative defense. That is, they admit that they committed a criminal act but seek to excuse their behavior by reason of a mental illness that satisfies the definition of legal insanity. People who are adjudged to have been insane at the time they committed a crime are neither legally nor morally guilty. Defend your rights. Okay? Defend yourself. The insanity defense has been around for the centuries. A 1313 English court referred the insane people as the witless, who do not have reason whereby they can choose the good from the evil. More colorfully, in 1812, English court decided that a man who had shot a lord was insane because he was a madman who doth not know what he is doing, not more than a brute or a wild beast. Okay, so despite the lengthy pedigree, consensus on the proper definition of legal insanity still does not exist either among psychiatrists or among legal scholars, and the two professions don't have a lot of confidence in each other. Okay? Definition of legal insanity: many criminal acts seemingly result from distorted mental process. The criminal justice system continues to struggle for a method to distinguish offenders whose mental illness is so severe that society should deem them not morally responsible for their behavior, from offenders whose actions, while perhaps objectively irrational, nevertheless merit punishment. Okay? So what that means is that when you allow them to say that you're insane, they're going to lock you up in a fucking mental ward. You're not going to see your family. You're never going to see anybody but fucking monsters. Okay? Because that's what they're doing. What really needs to happen here is Laura Wilson needs to be under investigation. She needs to be removing herself or be removed from the case. Okay? Brianna already asked for that. Vincent Naluzzi, he needs to be under investigation. He needs to be suspended, and he needs to do some jail time for all the frivolous acts that he's done in the past, as well as the present. And he's obviously going to try to commit in the future, okay? So knowing that Brianna was put on the wrong medications, we have all this information that I've shared with everybody. So why isn't anybody standing the fuck up for their family or anybody, okay? Because it's not just my daughter going through it. I'm sure you've got loved ones and friends or friends of family that are going through it, and you're not aware of the situation. But they're abusing these people. That is a violation of your human rights, your civil rights, all of your rights, to be locked up in a fucking hospital. So what's going to happen now? Nobody's heard from Brianna in days. The last anybody heard from Brianna, she called and said that she was going to be moving into an apartment. That would have been on Tuesday. But you see, nobody's heard from Brianna. And one of her friends reached out to me because nobody's heard from Brianna. Last I knew, Brianna was at a motel that they said they put her in. This was after they lured her out of my care to the state of Vermont, put her in another fucking situation where she ended up in a hospital. She ended up running from one hospital, motel to a hospital for help, because she was scared. And then they make her go on another hospital trip. And then they put her in a fucking, some kind of shelter in Montpelier. I already shared that with you because she sent me pictures and said, Mama, please. And so then she ended up somewhere else. And then they say they put her in the Colonnade Inn. Well, where the fuck is she now? Is what people want to know. Why is it that the courts are abusing Brianna? Well, it goes back to, like I said, 2006 and 2007. Why is there a 16-year-old in Brattleboro Retreat that is pregnant? How did a 16-year-old get pregnant in Brattleboro Retreat, Brattleboro, Vermont? It's in the news. It was brought to my attention yesterday. It was also brought to my attention about all the frivolous acts that are being brought to light in Vermont. The same role players that have decided to go against me and deem that I'm this bad, horrible person because they stole my house and my car and they've hidden evidence and they refuse to help me. So I'm the bad one, right? Because Jeff Noyes walked up to me and threatened to shoot me with, and threatened my life. Fumbling with something in his pocket, acting like he was going to pull a gun out, whatever it may be. I reported all of it. And they didn't do anything about it. And the landlord said on April 1st, when he came to the apartment, that he wanted me to take my daughter and my grandson in the middle of the night because he was scared for us. Why? Why was it that he wanted us to leave in the middle of the night? Who's after us during the day? Tell me what it is, Michael Hatton, please. Who is it? Who is it that you're so afraid that was after us and you knew he was after us or she and you let it happen to us? Because you hid the fucking surveillance. I asked you for it, didn't I? Okay? And you hid the surveillance. So, Janine at the Island Pond Post Office, she's a witness. Okay? She can't even deny the fact that Brianna was in a bad situation because why? Because she's the one that contacted me. Scared for Brianna. I didn't do it to Brianna. The state of Vermont did this to Brianna. I'm the one that has to save my daughter's life all the time. And that is why they have a no contact order that they will not release. Because why? Because they are trying to silence myself and my daughter. They don't want us talking to each other. And they don't want us filing together. Because we already filed together. And the Judge Crawford, federal court judge, okay? Well, Mr. Crawford had a big write-up in the newspaper about how I was taking up the court's time. Well, if I wasn't being done wrong by all the people in the state of Vermont that are in charge, I wouldn't be taking up anybody's time. You see? So with that being said, again, I got a phone call yesterday, not only about the girl that's pregnant in Brattleboro Retreat, got pregnant there, it's in the news, okay? Had that happen in the state hands, okay? And then you're going to tell me the J-Peak scandal's coming to light, guys. TJ Donovan is trying to hide the evidence. He's trying to stop the courts from being able to get the evidence of Mr. Shulman, he's the one that had phone conversation in regards to the scandal, the J-Peak scandal, okay? The big ski resort in Vermont. And who else is involved in that? All the fucking politicians that have been saying that I'm the bad one. TJ Donovan trying to hide the evidence. Why? Why is he trying to cover the frivolous acts? He's supposed to be the one that's representing the citizens and the residents of this state for this country. And he's the one that's behind the fucking criminal acts, isn't he? Obvious? Okay? Isn't he part of the reason why Jansen Wilhoit got pardoned from the Kentucky prison after he cried rape? After he embezzled millions of dollars from his clients under a frivolous fucking non-profit scam? But again, I'm the one that gets accused of doing wrong. You obviously know I'm not out doing wrong because I got cameras on me everywhere. I've got illegal surveillors. I got people watching me. I got people monitoring me. Okay? I'm not stupid. They took my phone and never gave it back to me. That's called theft, isn't it? If I reported that you took my phone from me and you didn't give it back to me, isn't that called abuse? Because you be hindering me knowing that I have a pacemaker. That'd be hindering my medical device from being able to be reset if it went off, right? So why is it that the federal court officers at the security in Burlington, Vermont never returned my phone to me? I went to the court, I wrote the court, I called the court. They won't give me my cell phone. So don't tell me I'm not being surveilled. And what happened? That's a cell phone that perhaps had the call list on it from when the hitman called me on August 16th of 2019 4 times. That would be a real major harassment, wouldn't it? Because if I hung up on him the first time and he called back 3 more times, and that's in my protection from harassment order that I filed, that was dismissed without being heard. And I have the right to be heard. That's why I'm going to D.C.